What's up, guys? It's Named Cody here, and welcome back to another video. Guys, if my comments section is enough to prove it, everyone has their own opinions. And this is even true when we're talking about strategies for taking down Pikmin bosses. And so, having fought every Pikmin boss on and off camera over the years, I finally decided to make a definitive, objective list of ways to defeat each Pikmin 3 boss in the most efficient and the safest way. And FYI, I'll be covering the bosses in order of their appearance in the game, and assuming I can get the YouTube chapter function working, they'll all have their own separate sections within the video for you guys to skip directly to. Before we begin though, make sure to subscribe prematurely before you even know how you're gonna like this video, and remember to join my Discord server so you too can voice your amazing opinions. Link in the description. You guys understand? So, let's get started. The first boss of Pikmin 3 is the armored Mawdad of the Garden of Hope. Mawdad is relatively simple to defeat normally, but there's a way to defeat him that actually takes less than 40 seconds and less than 50 Pikmin. For this fight, I'd recommend a healthy mix of red and rock Pikmin with an emphasis on reds. Right as the battle starts, dodge the Mawdad's first attack and immediately head to his tail. Just mash the A button on your rocks and break the piece of armor covering it. Then the Mawdad will go rest on a wall and in doing so, leave himself open for the attack. Use X, shake, or, the charge button to charge your red Pikmin onto his tail and then proceed to throw your rocks at him individually. This should get him to just a sliver of health before he retreats upward onto the cave wall, and from then, it's just waiting until he comes down and a single throw of a rock Pikmin to defeat him. In case you're wondering, the fastest I think I've ever defeated the Mawdad was 37.5 seconds. Make sure to leave your guys' times in the comments down below to see who can beat these bosses out the fastest. Fairly simple, fairly easy, let's move on. The second boss of Pikmin 3 is the Vehemoth Phosbat of the distant Tundra. For this fight, it doesn't really matter what Pikmin you use so long as you have a good amount. Around 50 Pikmin should do the trick. And keep in mind that you'll need at least 10 yellow Pikmin to turn on the light. Now, the Phosbat is one of those fights that people always overcomplicate. In reality, neither the bridge nor the big light is required to defeat the Phosbat. It's just as simple as using 3 small lights that are immediately accessible to us. After activating each light with 10 yellows, charge all of your Pikmin onto the Phosbat until he jumps back up. Then start continuously whistling so as to save your Pikmin from panicking from the Phosbat's spores. Repeat the process 3 times and that's the fight. It's worth mentioning though that these small lights in the arena are proximity based. That is, they will only disable the Phosbat if he's close enough, so just make sure he's within range before activating each light. That's pretty much as complex as this fight gets though, and to be honest, the Phosbat is more a constant hazard to his cave than a boss. So I have no idea how to time defeating him unless you play in challenge mode, so have fun with that. Next up is the Sandbelching Meerslug of the Tropical Wilds. For this fight, I recommend using all red Pikmin due to their damage boost and method of attack. And this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. There's a few strategies that work on the Meerslug here, and we'll start with the safest going down to the most dangerous. First up is simply avoiding the Meerslug's attacks. Stay away from the mound of sand that serves to track him until you see him fully emerge and start firing at you before you charge your whole squad of Pikmin onto him. Continue charging your Pikmin onto him as he's thrown out of the sand and until he digs away. Again, repeat 3 times and that's the fight. I'd also like to point out that his attack where he makes the whole arena into a sinkhole is easily avoidable by waiting on the entrance platform until the attack is over. I see too many people struggle with this attack, so it's best just to wait it out. Our second strategy is a little bit more risky, but with a faster fight resulting. Put simply, you're actually able to charge your Pikmin into his mouth when he's opened a sinkhole, and they attack him and spring him out of the sand. Once he's out of the sand, keep charging, etc, and this method also works through the big final attack as well. Careful here though, if you don't do it with enough Pikmin, the Meerslug will just ignore their attacks and eat them. Play it safe by using at least 50 Pikmin, though the minimum may be less. Third and most dangerous is the Bomb Rock method. There are several Bomb Rocks available throughout the Tropical Wilds, a map of which I will display on screen here. Back to the fight though, essentially how this strategy works is you'll throw the bomb rock into or near the mouth of the Meerslug. He'll eat the rocks and pop out of the sand as a result. You can also use the bomb rocks to damage him above ground, though it is dangerous because the bomb rocks will roll around based on the ever-changing terrain around them. Plus, they honestly don't do much damage compared to the good old-fashioned Pikmin charge. This is the fastest way to defeat the Meerslug, but keep in mind, if you run out of bomb rocks, it can become dangerous fast. Plus, you know, bomb rocks explode your Pikmin, so don't get too close. The fourth boss of Pikmin 3 is the Scornet Maestro of the Twilight River. For this boss, I'd recommend using all winged Pikmin due to the ease of being able to charge them at the flying boss and not tediously throw them like you have to do with every other Pikmin. But this boss, by far, is the easiest boss in the game with one simple strategy. Maestro will always target your current captain. Basically, your Pikmin are in no direct danger. So, simply use a spare captain with no Pikmin to stand on the opposite side of the arena to your other captains and Pikmin squad. Then wait for the Scornets to lock on and turn red before switching back to your Pikmin squad captain and charging all of your Pikmin onto the Maestro. Repeat this process just one more time, and that's the boss. This is definitely the strategy I encourage you to take away the most out of all of them, simply because the Maestro proves to be much more difficult if you don't use this strategy. This time around, I beat the Maestro in just over a minute, but it's 100% possible to be faster. Before we get to the final bosses here, I'd just like to mention some mini-bosses. The two actually impeding mini-bosses, the Burrowing Snagret and the Bug-eyed Crawmad, can be defeated with 2 button presses and a group of winged Pikmin. I'll let you watch, but basically just lock on and charge your Pikmin, and they should do the rest. The fifth boss of Pikmin 3 is the Quagled Mireclops of the Garden of Hope. Arguably the hardest boss in the game, the Mireclops can prove quite a foe if you don't use a proper strategy. Despite what game progression may lead you to believe, blue Pikmin are actually irrelevant to this fight, and I instead recommending the use of a good amount of winged Pikmin and around 20 to 30 rock Pikmin. Starting up now, it's important to notice that his feet move in a constant pattern, clockwise or right to left if you're standing at the entrance of the arena. Time a winged Pikmin charge and easily accessible foot right as it's placed back down into the mud. Don't call your Pikmin off until the Mireclops throws them off his leg to fall down. After this happens, whistle your Pikmin together, keeping in mind there could be some drowning by his foot you need to save, and position yourself at the base of the Mireclops. Then throw rock Pikmin until the crystal breaks. Since we don't need rock Pikmin anymore, and since their movements are a little more unpredictable than the winged Pikmin, I like to minimize the risk of losing them by just leaving them outside the arena. Then repeat the process to knock the Mireclops down and simply charge your winged Pikmin onto his head after that. He'll shake them off occasionally, so whistle them and charge them back on as soon as you can. After the Mireclops gets up from the second round onward, he'll perform a strange attack where he stands up on 2 legs and lifts one in the air. Simply attack one of the legs he's standing on to get a head start on knocking him down for the next cycle. After a few rounds, he'll be down for the count. You can also speed up this whole process by giving your winged Pikmin Spicy Spray, which can be found at various locations throughout the game. This time around, this fight took me 99 seconds, although I know it's not my best. The final boss of Pikmin 3 is the Plasm Wraith of the Formidable Oak. For this fight, I recommend using a team of entirely rock Pikmin, though similar to the Meerslug, there's multiple different methods you can use here. We'll start off with the simple rock Pikmin method, and I'll explain why it's useful. Now, you can go in with no strategy and 20 of each type of Pikmin to make the fight honestly very quick, but chances are you'll lose quite a lot of Pikmin considering the Wraith can kill as many as 20 non-rock Pikmin at a time. Let me explain. If you don't know, rock Pikmin are immune to the Plasm Wraith itself, not being able to be skewered. This means the only threat to the rock Pikmin are the elemental cubes, so as long as you keep track of your squad during the fight and whistle them when a Pikmin is lit on fire or enters the water sphere, you're pretty much good to go. Now, with that, I found that the rock Pikmin can actually destroy the crystal and fire cubes after they're activated by throwing, and can destroy the electric cubes before they activate by throwing. And since the Plasm Wraith simply performs its normal attack mid-air during its flying segment, rock Pikmin are still immune. So essentially just charge all your rocks at the Wraith until it starts spitting elemental cubes. When it does, start destroying them right away, but watch out if they turn into water since rock Pikmin won't reasonably have enough time to destroy those. This way no Pikmin die, but it's not exactly fast. If speed is what you're looking for, you can try method 2. Just like in the tropical wilds, there's several places to find bomb rocks in the Formidable Oak outlined here. If you time it well enough, you can shred through the Plasm Wraith's health with these bombs. I wasn't able to pull it off, but what I found is this. After attacking the Plasm Wraith, and after he's coiled up and split himself up once, throw all of your bomb rocks at once. This should get it down to relatively low health that you can quickly finish off with just a few extra seconds. Keep in mind that this particular tactic is a speedrunning tactic, and so it's going to take some practice and patience to master, but the fastest I was able to pull today was just under 3 minutes, which isn't great, but it's not terrible. Like I said, I suck at this particular strategy. That being said though, I've seen it done as fast as 22 seconds, so you can get pretty crazy with this one. Well, that's all the bosses covered. Make sure to let me know of any questions or maybe even better strategies that you have for these bosses. Ultimately, this is just a list of my opinions on how to beat these bosses the best way, so I could very well be wrong, but let's face it, when have I ever been wrong before? Make sure to like the video if you did like it and subscribe for more Pikmin and other gaming content, and once again, remember to join my Discord server for a plethora of reasons. But that is all for now, so I thank you all so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you all in the next one.
Phosbat.